The first ever mugshot of a former US president. The photo was taken after Donald Trump surrendered to authorities in Georgia on charges of plotting to overturn the state's 2020 election results. Let's speak to Erol Morkoc, who is spokesperson for Republicans Overseas UK, and then we'll also speak to Scott Lucas, Professor of US Politics at University College Dublin. Welcome both. Erol, I'll come to you first of all. I want to get both of your reactions to that mugshot. What did you make of it, Erol?
Well, you know, it was instantly a campaign poster for President Trump. He put it up on Twitter for his first return to Twitter. It's the most photographed man in the world, so it's not as though they needed a record of who he was. It was done to humiliate him, which of course is going to not be the effect to his supporters. And I guess at some point it had to be done based on the 700 years of prison he's facing for indictments. They were able to get a mugshot. What does it do? It allows him to fundraise off of it. It gives credence, I guess, to the fact that he has been arrested. I don't know how deep we can go into a mugshot, but certainly it's not something that plays well for us when you look at, say, moderate voters or the undecided voter. It's never a positive, but on one side, he probably raised his entire bail money in about 5 seconds after posting that photo. So that would be
I don't think that was probably top of the list of his priorities. But the fact that, for most people, a mugshot would be humiliating, to say the least. But he's proudly posted it for the world to see. And clearly, well, some would argue he will capitalise on it.
Oh, definitely. And, you can't blame them. I mean, if the shoe fits, I suppose, wear it. And if they're going to call you sedition running traitor to the country, you might as well, turn it around and use it to your advantage. Reclaim the narrative, I believe, is what the left always says about negative press. So certainly he's a different animal. He's not a normal citizen who normally would be, oh, I've been arrested, this is very bad. In this case, we see a situation of, where the First Amendment has been cast aside by Biden's weaponized DOJ to drain Trump's resources going into the campaign. And he feels he has every right to challenge an election until the final second of the final hour. We have a nation of laws, not men. And so he certainly is not going to let that mugshot be deleterious to his perspective. He's going to turn it around and juice the narrative into his favor, just as Trump always does.
OK, Scott, what do you see when you look at that mugshot?
Well, I think, first of all, as journalists and analysts, it's going to be important today and the days to come to cut through the disinformation and the diversions, including a lot of what you just heard, to try to avoid the legal facts and the political facts. And the legal facts around this mugshot is that this is the fourth set of indictments, and that there are 91 felony charges with the potential of hundreds of years in prison, and that this is not, quote, an issue of the First Amendment. There's nothing about that Donald Trump doesn't have the right to express what he thinks, but over the acts that he allegedly committed, which were specifically in Georgia to overturn the election there, which Joe Biden won, and at the federal level to overturn the election there, with what effectively was a plot, those legal facts need to be heard with Donald Trump innocent before proven guilty. And in terms of the politics that was being spun just then, look, you're going to hear a lot from the Trumpists today, which is whatever's thrown at Donald Trump will only make him stronger. First of all, that's not true. He has slipped in the polls in the first Republican contest in Iowa since the indictments came down. But more broadly, politics should never be allowed to prejudice the facts of the case and should never be used to help Trump try to take apart the U.S. legal system for his own personal benefit. So I'm hoping that Erol will deal with the facts in the Georgia indictment and in the federal indictment to explain what is not true about the claims that Donald Trump and his inner circle put pressure on state governors, state legislators, and finally Vice President Mike Pence to prevent Joe Biden from taking up the White House as the legally elected president.
OK, let's let Erol respond to that. Erol?
Well, I would say I agree with my friend Scott in the sense that we definitely need to have a jury of his peers and a trial. He's, of course, innocent until proven guilty, and in this case, he is incredibly innocent.
But what about the call in which he demanded that Georgia officials, find the votes he needed to win the state? I mean, that's a call that is available for everybody to listen to.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm really glad you brought that up, because that transcript goes on to say, effectively, because I've won this state, There's mail-in ballots coming, and Trump is obviously baffled that he would have lost Georgia, which unfortunately he did, based on the outcome, which he conceded, which, that's what you do at the end, which he did do. So if he had said, go manufacture me 11,000 ballots, go build me 11,000 fake ballots, go fill out 11,000 ballots, that's a huge crime. And I would 100% see that. But if you look at the rest of that transcript, you effectively, with his cadence and the way he talks, which is a bit abrasive at times, is saying, there's mail-in ballots coming. We need to have 11,000. That's all we're losing by is 11,000 votes.
But the 13 charges, it's not just, it's 13 charges. This is a former US president we're talking about, of plotting to overturn the, election results, a fourth arrest in 5 months. Do you think he will become the Republican candidate? Do you want him to be your Republican candidate?
Well, there's two questions there. Now, first off, it absolutely solidifies what he's been saying, and a lot of people who were maybe turned off by him after 2016 have seen these, extreme amount of, again, we're facing 700 years in prison, and it's definitely solidifying himself as the Republican nominee, which of course is what the Democrat Party wants, because they would love to run against Donald Trump as opposed to somebody like Vivek or Ron DeSantis, who doesn't come with that baggage. Now, myself, I've always stood behind President Trump. I don't think he's guilty of any of the crimes that have been leveled against him, and I'm very happy to see him have his day in court. Yeah.
Scott, do you think Joe Biden is strong enough to win again?
Well, look, I think you deal with Joe Biden's record. You deal with what's been done on the important issues we need to be discussing, such as the economy, such as immigration, such as housing, education, support for Ukraine against Russian aggression, all of those issues. And the problem is all those issues are being swept aside by the disinformation. For example, Erol just simply said wrongly that Donald Trump believed he had won Georgia in that transcript. First of all, the mail-in ballots had already been counted before Trump made the phone calls to the governor and the secretary of state. So he's wrong on that point. And secondly, Donald Trump had been informed by his advisors that he, in fact, had lost Georgia before he made those calls. So again, what you're going to have is a competition today, which is going to be of the Trumpist spin and the disinformation versus a fundamental, which isn't just about Joe Biden.
And so do you think that he will win the Republican nomination?
No, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion.
You don't, but he may, but you're not saying he won't.
But because here's the trap.
Yeah.
The trap is that the Trumpists go around and say, oh, he's leading in the polls, pay attention to him, pay attention to him.
Right.
And the media at this point is paying attention to only Trump. There's no discussion of the other Republican candidates and of the important issues. If the media doesn't get led by the nose by Trump, then you have a genuine contest, and the Trumpist line, I'm going to win anyway, you can finally put that to the side and have a true political process where Trump isn't shutting out the sun, and he's the only one that the media follow in the darkness.
OK. Scott Lucas, Professor of US Politics at University College Dublin, thank you. And we also heard from Erol Morkoc, who is spokesperson for Republicans Overseas UK. What do you think? 88291 on the texts.